Okay.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Anna. Nice to see you here. Nice to see you all here. Welcome to our stream. This is going to be a recording of our chat with Anna. My name is Tetiana Lesyk. I'll just give a short introduction to you in case you don't know me. I'm a professional and certified phonetician. I deal with British English pronunciation, which I adore. I lived in London for 4 years. That's where I perfected my own pronunciation, and now I deal with teaching it to my students and to other teachers as well. I also teach business English because I've worked in a bank, in a Dutch bank for 11 years. So now I'm totally devoted to educational processes. And the aim of our meeting today is to also interest you in improving your own pronunciation and to share our own experiences of how we got where we are at the moment and share our experiences, maybe some funny cases and some interesting stories of how we also made some mistakes and how hard it may have been at some point of time. But we're still here and we still enjoy what we do. Maybe we will inspire you to give pronunciation another chance. So, Anna, welcome. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Really, really pleasant to have you here. Can you introduce yourself to us and tell us your story? Tell us your story of your English pronunciation.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much for having me here, for inviting me here. It's such an honor to be a part of your new project. And thank you, everyone who has come to listen to us. Thank you for spending your time. So, my name is Anna. I am a professional phonetician as well as Tetiana. So, actually, I defended my PhD thesis in 2021 in phonetics. And finally, I got my academic rank this year, and I've become an associate professor. And all my life, almost, as far as I remember myself, I have been teaching English, but different spheres during different times, during the different periods of my life. After my graduation, I worked in the law academy and I taught my students legal English. And during my maternity leave, I decided that I would like to raise my children bilingual. And yeah, I was preparing hard. So I started reading different books and so on. And moreover, I started writing my PhD thesis in 2013. Uh, Due to different reasons, I didn't complete it as I planned. But anyway, my children became the inspiration for me to learn about bilingual life and to learn more about phonetics. And maybe my daughter was 1 year old when I realized that I want her sound more native because she started talking pretty early. She was a year and a half, and I decided that my accent was kind of a mixture of British and American. I think that nowadays it is rather common feature of the everyday life, yes, of most part of the teachers today. We all had some kind of the mixture of accents, and I decided that I want my children sound more native like. And I started digging into phonetic literature, everything that was connected with different investigations. And actually, my PhD thesis was dedicated to the persuasion and to philosophy. Yes. So, and I started taking different courses from the native speakers, of course. And at that point, I realized that they just teach us how to copy, but they do not explain the right articulation. Yeah, thanks to different instructors, different wonderful scientists like Jeff Lindsay, for example. Yeah, I discovered lots of useful information. And after my maternity leave, I started working at the Department of Theoretical and Applied Phonetics. By the way, this is the only example of the separate, I would say, separate phonetic department in Ukraine. There is no other departments in all the universities of Ukraine, because usually they are combined with lexis, for example, or with grammar. And I have forgotten to tell you that I am from Odessa. So I work in Odessa National Mechnikov University, and we have the Faculty of Romance and Germanic Philology, where I have the position of an associate professor. So I can share a little bit of my experience today. So I think I consider to have some kind of expertise that might be useful for your listeners, for your
Cool.
followers.
Cool, cool. Thank you for such a cool introduction, and thank you for all this information. It's a wow as well to also have you here and talking about your kids and the bilingualism you have imposed on them, so to say, because I know that a lot of our listeners and viewers are also thinking about this or already have their kids who are bilingual. So I know this question is raised many times too. My both kids are not bilingual, but they're quite good at English. And my personal experience was how it worked for them. That they, like my younger daughter, she speaks English freely, and she, by the way, has an American accent. We are both British accents with you here, but she has American accent because at some point I told both the girls that we will not have any Russian cartoons or movies in here. If you want to watch something and we don't have the dubbing yet into Ukrainian, we're both Ukrainian teachers, then watch it in the original. So she did, and she started picking up American accent. She watches Australian series too, anything, and she's watched a lot of them, and she picks it up easily. And now she's actually on in the stage where she's teaching me some phrases too. So parents out there who are looking for some tips on how to include more of English language for your kids, just tell them that they can watch either the original or in your mother tongue. This works, it works for us brilliantly. But could you share a little more experience, what exactly you did, a couple of steps that helped you on your way of your kids becoming bilingual? Who speaks with them both languages, only you or other members of your family?
Okay, I'll start from the very beginning. I said, welcome to my child, to my first daughter when she was born. And the doctors in the maternity house, they were like, what? I said, I'm sorry.
Hold on a
Before,
minute.
yeah, before that, so during my pregnancy, I was singing songs to my child in my womb. So I wanted her to get accustomed to the voice, to the sound. You know, it's a general misconception that language is taught only through through grammar and lexis and vocabulary. But if we imagine the newborn child, uh, he or she perceives all the information through their skin and ears. They do not see anything. They are not explained the grammar rules to speak their native language properly. They hear. And I learned different researches on this point, and I thought that, first of all, they need to hear different sounds, the sounds of English. My husband spoke and speaks Ukrainian to them nowadays, and I speak only English to them in different situations, even when they're sick or when we go to the doctor. So people who are around me are already they
Used
react
to
so
it, yeah.
yeah, yeah, they're used to that. Because at the beginning of our route, yes, they were just, what are you doing? You really spoil their childhood. I said that these are my children. I'm sorry.
And that's
I'll
my
do it.
decision. But
Yes.
I
So,
just love how other people like to interfere and in other people's
yes, yes.
business and just tell them how they should live our lives. Yeah.
But again, so we start perceiving the information from around only through our ears, firstly. And I think that today maybe the educational system made it wrong. Maybe the teachers are sometimes too tired to teach three parts of language, not only grammar and vocabulary, but phonetics as well, because it's like a trident. you know, they are indispensable. And that inspired me to work on my accent, on my pronunciation. So,
Mhm.
and as to the bilingual life, I just talk to my children in English because they do not have some inner language in their brain.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Mhm.
matter which language you start speaking to them, it doesn't matter. So
Mhm.
whether it is Chinese or English, I
Yeah.
just, of course, it's a very hard work because
Sure.
you need to enlarge, to enhance your vocabulary all the time. Because when you finish the university, you know the names of the engine, but you do not know the names of nappies, diapers, some milk, I don't
Basic
know,
things. Yeah.
formula. Yeah,
Yeah.
so something basic that actually surrounds us in our
Yeah.
everyday life. So
That's
for
where Peppa Pig is coming. Yeah.
exactly, and for those who see their life bilingual, I really advise you to work on your level of English first of all.
Okay, what if a learner is watching us now? What if it's a learner? What if a person is not a teacher of English, but somebody who is just himself or herself learning English and maybe not as fluent as you are or me are? I am. Oh my goodness.
We
Uh,
are.
yes, we are. What would your maybe tip be for them? How can they have their children speak
Start,
both languages? Yeah.
you
I
need to
remember I
start.
also started with my both girls that I sang songs in both English and Ukrainian to them. And because they absorb when they are really, really tiny and young, they absorb everything there because they hear it comes in through listening. But then once my eldest daughter was like about 2 years and she started understanding that these are two different languages, and she goes, Mommy, I don't want no, I don't want yes. It's like speak normal language to me. So
Yeah,
yeah, I stopped, but I still am convinced that I gave a very good ground for her, and she's quite good at English at the moment, and she has good, listening. She's got good ears as well. She hears the sounds properly, so yeah, she'll eventually get there. But what would your advice be to those parents who are not teachers of English, who don't have this vast vocabulary? How can they help their kids enlarge their ability to speak English better?
I got your question. So first of all, start as early as possible because the earlier you start, the easier the process will be. It's much more easier to talk to a child when he or she is 1 year old, and it's much more difficult when the child is 5. When the child is 5, you will probably meet something like, Mama, what is that? I
What's
do
wrong with you? All of a sudden.
sounds. Yes, I do not understand because it's too difficult. When the child is just born, as far as I remember, only a couple of months after the birth, they can diversify the different sounds of different languages.
Hmm.
So they, for example, can understand, aha, these are the sounds produced by my mama. These are
Mhm.
the sounds produced by my father, granny, grandpa, all are the people around me,
Mhm.
and they already pay attention to that. So the earlier you start, the better.
So yeah,
Second,
just one sec. Still, it's coming through their ears. Yeah,
yes.
talking about teaching grammar. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So do not think that if you know present simple and present continuous, that will be enough. You need to know some basis of phonetics as well, not to make your child confused when they meet someone who really speaks English, who speaks proper English, and then they will not misunderstand whether they said giraffe or an elephant, because sometimes the words are mispronounced, and that's the big problem, I think. So phonetics, the
Yep.
basis, the grounds of that. As you said, singing songs, that's great because the melody, the rhythm, the intonation, they will be accustomed to these patterns, intonation
Mhm.
patterns. So that will be a great plus for them. Then I tried to play with my children in English. So
Mhm.
describing everything that I'm doing in English,
Mhm. Mhm.
playing with them, and try to protect your children from the screen time, because I know
Mhm.
lots of experts who say, oh, if you turn on the cartoon in English, they will learn the language. My dears, the child is going to watch and will be very happy to watch cartoon in any language. Only
Yeah.
because it is the cartoon. It doesn't matter that the language will sting. I don't know, will stick to them. No, they will just watch. They see the picture and that's it. So try to read the books as much as possible. Show with your own example that you like reading, that books can be interesting, they can be vivid, and read aloud. In order to read aloud, you need to be confident that you are reading right. So, and here we come again.
Yeah.
Please start learning at least the basic phonetics, at least basic one. Yeah.
Talking about listening and what you mentioned earlier, that a child can actually hear the voice of his or her mom from the womb, and then on, from just the surroundings, especially the first days, she doesn't see much. So
Everything is in the blur.
yeah. So it's in the first place, it's about listening skills. And as you mentioned, it's not only the English language, our comprehension and ability to use it as much and be as close to being a fluent English user as possible. It's not all about just grammar and just vocabulary and just writing or even speaking. I would suggest saying that pronunciation is basically everywhere. So wherever we go, we cannot do every aspect of English language completely and properly without the phonetics present and pronunciation present. So listening also depends a lot on how we are able to digest what we hear. Because if we don't know the rules, the aspects of, for example, of connected speech, we will simply not understand what a native speaker said, and so on. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you that pronunciation, is really important. I understand that we obviously will be saying this to our listeners and viewers,
I'm
but this is the truth.
true.
This is the truth. It's actually there. A lot of my students, the first comment that they make after they go through the course with me, they say that they started understanding native speakers, the Brits, much better because they understand the basics, how the sounds and where the sounds are created. You also touched on the accents. We touched a little bit on the accents. And you mentioned that before the self-consciousness, you had a kind of a mixture of accents. I would like to expand a little bit on this one and ask your opinion on how do you think it is bad or not bad to have a mixture of accents? Because I also get this question asked many times. Should I or should I not clean my accent to fit certain way? Yeah, because we are surrounded by a lot of films that influence us. Yeah, and like there is American Hollywood, which is huge, and obviously a lot of American films, and we get not just words in terms of vocabulary, but also the pronunciation affects our perception and our ability to reproduce it too. We also have British films, Australian, and so on. So it does affect us. And what would your advice be to people who are still not certain whether they should stick to a certain accent or they shouldn't do anything about it?
I'll be prepared to my long story. So, yeah, I've got just several ideas how to answer this question, and probably I'll start from my personal experience. As you said
Excellent.
about the listening skills, it is necessary to remember that even if you listen to the text, to the native speaker, whatever, for 100 times, it will not guarantee that you will understand after 101. No, if you do not know the rules of the connected speech, for example, because I remember my experience at school, I was absolutely useless in listening. I didn't hear what the native speakers on the tapes were saying because at school we were taught the words in isolation and we didn't
Yeah,
know how they change each other.
yeah,
I couldn't understand what does it mean. Unless you, what is that? Bless you, what is that? Yeah. And when I started Digging into phonetics and learning all the rules of the connected speech. By the way, they are not endless. It is necessary to remember that it's not so difficult as it might seem. You start learning, and that process probably will take you 3-4 months in order to get the basis. And then you will add some knowledge, some tricks, some tips, but in general, you will have rather good basis already. So what I mean, people do not need to be afraid of starting this journey. Start today, start learning phonetics today, or stick to one accent, British or American one, whatever. But as to your question about the mixture of accents, I would like to say, at times I meet also lots of native speakers who advocate for lingua franca, saying that it is completely enough if you are intelligible, if you sound clear, and if the other people understand you. Yes, they tell us that because they are native speakers, and it's easy for them to say that. Maybe we are the threat for them. I don't know. Maybe they're afraid that we will substitute them as the teachers. Who knows? But I think that it's better to sound not only intelligible, not only understandable for others, but to sound beautiful as well. Why not? It is. It also adds lots of points to your self-confidence when you are satisfied with your pronunciation, with your sounds, with your intonation, whatever. And it will help you with public speaking. Yeah, you should not be a teacher in order to have the public speaking experience. Yes, you can work in any company. You have to make the presentation. And when you have the clean speech, I think you will impress your listeners anyway, rather
Um,
than shocking, rather than tell them all the mixtures of Australian, American, British accents and so on. Of course, we are exposed mostly. I would say yes, we're exposed to American accent mostly, yeah, because the films, Hollywood films, TV series, Netflix. But at the same time, if you want, you can find enough British accent content, and that will be enough. Yes. So
yeah.
I think that it is better to stick to one accent. And by the way, as I see, I have rather nice experience with my students at the university. I see that after practicing and drilling the necessary drills, not all the drills, they start understanding not only the British accent, but other regional accents as well. They start understanding them better. So
Mm-hmm.
we know how it works because,
Yeah.
again, as I said, sounds are important, intonation is important, but the connected speech is even more important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree on this one. Thank you for your opinion. Yeah. Yeah, I speaking about varieties of accents within one person and one usage, I would think that it's up to the person to decide whether they want to stick to a certain line or they are, free to use some other words. But in this case, if they decide to have a little bit of a mixture, then you should be aware of the fact that you may at some point sound a little bit strange. Yeah. So it will look like I don't know, a small Frankenstein of accents if it's way too different combined in one person speaking. And we should also be aware that some words in some dialects can change the meaning when they are put in another dialect. Like, yeah, I won't be giving any examples at the moment,
As
but I
you,
do have
yes, but
situations.
you may end up in a very awkward situation.
Exactly. So a
Yeah.
dialect, a word from a dialect may sound as a different word in standard rules pronunciation. So just be careful, be aware that if you decide not to bother, with clearing up your own accent, just be aware that you may sound sometimes awkward or strange to the native speakers. Speaking about the purity of pronunciation in general and whether we should have a perfect accent in general, I know that nowadays, especially native speaking phoneticians are in this trend that they support the idea that we shouldn't force learners into having a perfect accent, into speaking just exactly as a native speaker and not less. I agree on this one because this was probably caused by some historical events in the past where we actually were always told that you only have to sound perfect and nothing, nothing less than that. And we still probably feel that pressure from those times. So now the pressure has been reduced on us. But I also believe that it shouldn't be reduced to the ridiculous. So there has to be at least a minimal line where this intelligibility comes in, because if you're calling and you have to speak with an operator and you cannot understand the person, there is no intelligibility. So I'm sorry, yes, there has to be clear language that people understand you, simply understand you. And then the next step, when I love saying this, when people enjoy the way they sound. So if you've studied, if you've practiced, if you've drilled enough, but you understand that you cannot reach the perfection, and probably not everyone should, not everyone is capable of it, right? But if you feel that it's okay for you, that it's enough for you, okay, and people understand you and you enjoy the way you sound, why not? And I absolutely agree with you that better pronunciation boosts your self-confidence hugely. And I know it from my practical experience too, because I've done 4 years in London, working in different companies as well. And I also have worked in the Dutch bank for 11 years. So I've done the negotiations, the business meetings, including the local people and the expats from various countries of the world. So I've seen a lot of cases when people were having not the best pronunciation, but they were smart in their own language, in their mother tongue. And unfortunately, psychologically, like how people meet us, yeah, by our looks, by the way we look. So we dress up nicely to make the first impression, and you can only make the first impression once. And the same is with pronunciation. Unfortunately, we as human beings psychologically perceive the person who has a worse pronunciation as more, uh, less clever, so to say. So when we start hearing, the professor can be really smart in his mother tongue, but when he starts speaking with a worse pronunciation, people do not perceive this professor as smart as he is in his mother tongue. So think about this, and if you still had doubts about whether you should or should not go in for the pronunciation lessons or a course, or just ask about it someone who who is good at languages, think about this as well. So better pronunciation adds to your self-esteem hugely, especially if you have business, or you need to make public speeches, or you have business with foreign partners, especially now, when it comes to Ukraine being in this situation. We will have a lot of businesses having the need to be able to speak with other nationalities and other companies representing other countries.
Yeah, 100%. It's the matter of taste, which accent to choose, or to be it might be enough even to have some kind of neutral accent without such vivid, for example, rhotic R consonant. Yes, that is the trait of the American accent.
Yeah.
You might have the neutral accent, but I think for the English teachers, it is very important to have some kind of accent. And right, yeah, because sometimes when I come across different teachers in Instagram and other social media, my ears start bleeding, because yes, they're fluent, they speak about interesting things, but I can't listen them. And if I am not able to persuade myself to listen till the end, so probably the same happens to the rest of their audience, and they're just losing their money. So why not to invest in your pronunciation, to spend some months of teaching, of learning some accent, practicing, because you know that any accent, it's just it's the result of the physical exercises.
Yeah,
Yes, it's
yeah,
just a physical skill. So you understand how to articulate the sounds, and then you practice and practice unless you finally reach your goal.
yeah.
That's
That's
it. Yeah, it's
I
not difficult. It is
yeah,
not.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it's time consuming. It is. But if you have this goal, if you understand why you need it, and moreover, I think that when the teacher has perfect British accent, I think this teacher will have rather high prices for their lessons, right?
yeah, yeah.
People
That's
people will pay attention to
Will be,
that kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
teacher.
that's, I agree. I absolutely agree with you, especially when it comes to, as you mentioned, the teachers who are speaking with a little worse pronunciation on Instagrams and on videos and all. Sometimes I try to put myself in the shoes of a buyer, of their potential learner, a learner who comes to choose a teacher. He or she doesn't know whether this person has good or bad accent. We don't know whether this person is making any mistakes or not. Yes, they may be great at grammar, but you still have to know that you are not learning the mistakes. Because, for example, recently I had a student who is also a teacher now, and she said that for all her life she'd been taught to pronounce the nurse vowel sound as O. And she now is struggling for weeks to get this fossilized mistake out of her pronunciation, and she realizes it, and it's more difficult now because it's a fossilized mistake. Yeah.
That's a pain in
It's
my back.
yeah,
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 because
obvious
changing these patterns is much more difficult process than trying practicing
to
the new
fix a
pattern.
new
Yeah.
habit. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, from the scratch. Also talking about teaching the mistakes to others. When we talk about teachers and the mistakes they give to teach to their younger learners, I think you had a story.
Yes, I
Yeah.
have one. Yes, it's not my experience, it's the experience of my daughter who is 7 years old. So she already attends school. And one day she came to me and said, Mummy, do you know how my teacher pronounces Christmas? I said, How? She said, Christmas. So that's the child. I understand that not all the children can hear the mistakes, but my child can. And in your eyes, this teacher is not kind of the teacher whom she can rely on.
Yeah,
Yes, so she will really question everything that she will say after that.
yeah.
Because the next day she brought me another word, and that was Bill. And she said the name of the boy, who is Bill. And she
Mhm.
said, Do you know how she pronounced Bill? I said, How? She said, Bill. What can I say?
Yeah, yeah, but the thing is, yeah, I understand we're all human beings and we all make mistakes. Yeah,
Yeah,
same comes for me and
absolutely.
for
No one
everyone.
is
So
perfect.
yeah,
Yeah,
so it's not about us being judgmental or anything. So, you know, I
absolutely.
have to
No.
make this disclaimer. It's not us judging other people, but it's about that the higher standards for the teachers, because I am, as a human being, as a teacher, I'm also striving to reach those higher standards, and I'm also encouraging you to do so. So if you're a teacher, yeah, we should also keep on constantly working on ourselves,
But
including pronunciation
you
too, because
know,
otherwise our students will simply not see us as I don't know, examples of what, you know, we will not be those.
the role model. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. So they will lose the interest, you know, of learning from us if they understand that we're not teaching them the right things, yeah, or things in the right way. So
yeah.
yeah, I agree about that one
And
completely.
I'd like to add. So I understand that people who go and work as school teachers, they are saint. They are. Yeah.
True,
But the
absolutely,
thing is that
absolutely.
they probably were not taught proper phonetics at their universities. And that's the place where we should start from.
Yes, but it's not to blame anyone,
No
absolutely,
way.
because
No,
I
no.
also know a lot of teachers who came to teaching from different professions. So obviously they didn't have a university with phonetical course running over there. So it's not about blaming, shaming. No, absolutely not. It's about where we can start helping each other, yeah, and be of use. Yeah.
You know, my biggest inspiration from my students' life were my teachers, were my lecturers, who are currently, by the way, they are now my head of the department and dean of my faculty. But back then in 2004, they were my teachers, and I listened to them, and it was such an eye-opener that the Ukrainian speaking person can speak English so beautifully. I was so inspired that I wanted to have perfect British accent after that. I never thought about American one, by the way, but it stuck to me somehow. I don't know how it happened. Maybe because of the Friends TV series. I don't know. And but then my children pushed me again towards the British accent, and now I understand that it is necessary to speak about that, how necessary it is, how necessary it is not to forget that language, any language, consists not only of grammar and vocabulary, but phonetics. The child starts learning the world from the sounds. So not the grammar rules, not
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
yes, the names of the objects and so on. But first, the child sees
We
not the
hear.
letters, but
Yeah,
hears
we
the
hear.
sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. I agree on this one too. And so what what I understand that we're trying to say is that pronunciation is everywhere, phonetics is everywhere. And the sooner you start
Tangible. Yes, it's
taking a
tangible.
little bit, every little step of improving it, the sooner your English speaking life will become better and easier. It will become easier to comprehend speaking of other people, especially native speakers. It'll be easier for yourself to present yourself if you have the need to have a presentation or speak with foreign partners at meetings and so on. So your life, if you need English, will definitely improve, yeah, in many respects if you start working on your pronunciation. So I
And you
absolutely
never know,
agree.
you never know where you will really need it. Yeah.
Yeah, because with remembering what you said, that pronunciation takes some time, unfortunately, and this is the sad truth that people don't want to listen to because they like buying a 3-week course that, buy a 3-week course and sound like a native speaker straight away. This never works unless you're already close to the native speaker, of course. But this doesn't work because pronunciation is a very physical thing. It's the work of with our muscles and muscle memory. So it physically takes some time. It's a little bit longer for some people, maybe a little bit shorter for others, and depends on how regular you work and how hard you work and so on, how much immersion you into the language you do. But still, it takes some time. So, I don't want to scare you off, but I really would like to encourage everyone who's interested in improving their English in general to start paying attention to pronunciation, to how things are pronounced, and to maybe look out either for the course or for a teacher or for a speaker whose pronunciation you enjoy, whose accent you enjoy. So think about this one.
You
To
know, just a second. I also have questions from my students who say something like, "Oh, I do not have talent for phonetics." No, everyone has that. You do not need to have the talent. You need
Yeah.
to be hardworking. Yeah.
Yes, exactly,
And
exactly.
one more thing, some people think that it will be enough to read the book. For example, you read one book, two books, three books, and after that, you will obtain that intrusive sounds, for
Mhm.
example, or linking R or linking whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's just a matter of practice. Physical,
Yeah,
physical
yeah, yeah, and
practice.
some work, some hard work. Yeah, maybe it has to be regular. It doesn't have to be hours during the day, but it can be 20 minutes, but on a very regular basis. Yeah. Maybe one more last thing I want to ask from you before we finish off our lovely chat today, is maybe you could give a tip or a recommendation, one link or one person who inspires you to help your students become better at their pronunciation, someone, a guru of pronunciation, or a book, something you could advise, you could think of right now, maybe whose account they should follow, or maybe a book they should read. Yeah.
Taking in consideration that they're already following you, right?
Yes.
Okay, of course. So I think that the guru of today, the legend of the modern RP studies, researchers, is Jeff Lindsay. Yeah, and his wonderful book, uh, English After RP.
I have
Yeah.
it over there.
Oh, yes, it's my favorite book as well. Yeah, so when you learn and discover that language is it's life, it's a life thing, it changes over the time, and the old models do not work anymore. The last person who spoke with posh RP died in 2022. That was Queen Elizabeth II. So even Charles has a kind of some traits of the modern RP.
Yeah.
Yeah, please follow him. He has wonderful YouTube channel. He has lots of videos and I like them. I also like one more account that is Pronunciation Lab. Yeah,
Okay.
I
We'll leave everything in the description box, so I'll add it to the text
so the
because I also
author,
I
yeah,
want our viewers to have more use out of our video too.
yeah, yeah. So the author really develops all the details, describes tiny details of articulation.
Mhm.
And I also would recommend the site Seeing Speech, I think, com UK. So they have MRI of the
Mm,
mouth of, and you can see
during
how
the
the
speech.
words, yes, yeah, Seeing Speech. So
Mhm.
I like it very much. I
Okay.
always demonstrate to my students how the tongue
Moves.
its position,
Yeah.
yes, how the jaw is dropped, whether the lips are spread, they can't see that.
Yeah,
but
because it's
but
sideways.
I
Yeah.
show my face and I
Yeah.
show also the pictures of the some celebrities to show how the lips, because in articulation you need to mind lips, the mouth, yes, the jaw drop and the position of the tongue. That's it. So
Thank
I
you.
think these three
Yeah.
sources will be enough, not to
Okay.
overwhelm. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was such a great chat. I think
Oh,
it was really useful for our viewers. Thank you, Anna, for joining me, for accepting my invitation. An honor to me too. And I'm wishing you the best, students.
thank you. I always have the best students, you know. I have 15 years of expertise working in the universities, and I have never had an awful student. They were all talented, hardworking, and highly motivated.
Yeah,
That's
this is the
what
best,
makes me happy.
actually.
The
Yeah, this
happiest teacher ever. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for
I'm
having
sure.
me. Thank you. I hope to see you soon in person
Yes,
finally.
yes, we will, and we know when and where.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Thank you.